Tonight on CFTK-TV News, a BC-based recovery organization will soon open doors in the Northwest. The healthcare crisis comes to a head in Lake Cowichan, and Conservative leader John Rustad's leadership review.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday, June 26th, 2025. I'm Jaylene Matthews. We'll begin tonight with our news that's local to the Northwest. An established BC-based recovery organization will soon be opening the doors of a new land-based wellness resort in Northwest BC. Red Road Recovery, along with the Northern First Nations Alliance, have announced they'll be opening a terrace-based comprehensive 90-day residential recovery program. These images are from one of Red Road's operational locations, Red Road Ranch in Lumby, BC. The new terrace location, situated along 3,000 square feet of the Skeena River, is promising a supportive, trauma-informed healing environment for community members rooted in Indigenous culture, traditions, and land-based practices. The organization has received support from the provincial government in this endeavor. Red Road Recovery is now hiring for many positions at the location, from program director to yoga instructor, with a focus on hiring qualified local Indigenous people. They say the initiative represents a vital step to restoring wellness, dignity, and hope across the Northwest. Nechako Lakes MLA and leader of the Conservative Party, John Rustad, has been under scrutiny lately over his blackmail allegations and the subsequent denial from those accused. Now the party is reviewing his leadership.
Conservative leader John Rustad emerged from Wednesday's caucus meeting with a smile, flanked by fellow members of his party who formed a wall behind him as questions swirl about his future as party leader.
So poll out today that shows us with a 3-point lead over the NDP. More importantly, it shows that the choice of leader to resolve the issue that matters most is a 7-point lead that we have over David Eby and the NDP.
A leadership review is already underway and is expected to last through the summer. He was asked about a social media post from developer Ryan Beatty, a prominent businessman who's calling for the Conservatives to become more centrist.
We are not going to compromise who we are. And, I think Mr. Beatty sent that same advice to Kevin Falcon when he was as the BC Liberal Party.
Rustad also appeared to show regret over a leaked letter in which he claimed former Conservative MLAs threatened to blackmail party members.
To have to step back from those allegations in this somewhat unsatisfactory way, I think will follow Mr. Rustad around as whether he is to be trusted in making sound decisions at these key moments.
The Premier was asked about Rustad's leadership review and took the opportunity to take a swipe at the BC Conservatives.
This is a group of people that includes climate deniers, residential schools deniers. The far-right politics of this group are extreme, and no matter who is leading them, they're going to face significant challenges.
Langley Abbotsford Conservative MLA Harman Bangu insists Rustad has caucus support.
John Rustad has the support of our caucus. Everyone is excited. We got the NDP on the ropes.
So really the word publicly from the Conservatives is that John Rustad has the party's support. But with this leadership review process lasting for months, this is a story that isn't going away anytime soon. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Surrey.
The Senate has passed Bill C-5, the Liberal government's controversial Major Projects Bill. The legislation gives the federal government the power to fast-track projects to boost the national economy. While the bill passed without amendments, a handful of senators attempted to persuade their colleagues to include language about respecting Indigenous rights. The politically charged legislation has angered Indigenous and environmental groups who criticize the government for rushing to grant itself sweeping new powers to speed up development. Several Indigenous leaders called on MPs and senators to slow the bill's passage to give Indigenous communities more time to suggest amendments and review the legislation with their lawyers. The legislation was introduced in the upper chamber on Wednesday after the bill was fast-tracked through the House of Commons. Coming up next, the doctor shortage about to hit Lake Cowichan. A new campaign is encouraging British Columbians to squeal if they spot invasive pigs in the wild. The Invasive Species Council says BC has to do what it can to prevent the animals from becoming a problem here the way they are elsewhere in the country. Executive Director Gail Wallen says the animals reproduce quickly, can withstand winter, and are known to do significant environmental damage to crops and wetlands. Anyone who spots a pig can report it online via the organization's website using an invasive species app or by calling in with information. And the healthcare crisis has come to a head in Cowichan, where the only physician in town will soon be leaving. Here's CTV's Brendan Strain.
This is a call to action to the community.
The greater community of Cowichan Valley, who is staring down a healthcare crisis beginning in Lake Cowichan.
Our last physician is leaving at the end of July.
In early June, that community's only other doctor retired, meaning in a little more than a month, 6,500 people living in the West Cowichan area will not have a doctor in their community. The mayor says he is working with the owner of the medical clinic to recruit another doctor, potentially from the States, but there's an issue.
The availability of rental housing, the availability of childcare.
In North Cowichan, another growing concern. Under construction is a brand new, state-of-the-art hospital set to open in 2027.
There isn't enough affordable housing for the workforce to now staff that hospital.
Dave Saunders is the president of the Saunders Family Foundation, which has developed a playbook and toolkit to address the many issues communities are finding when attempting to recruit healthcare professionals. That includes establishing community childcare spaces, public transportation, and of course, workforce housing.
It's not about finger pointing anymore. It's about involving the community in the direction moving forward in a situation where healthcare is in crisis.
All ministries are health ministries.
Valerie Nickel is the president of Community Healthcare Systems, a company the Saunders Foundation created to work with those communities through a process that she says can be extremely difficult to navigate.
Health is not in a silo by itself. Housing is not in a silo by itself. And any other issue a community is facing, if it's not being addressed easily, it's because it takes multiple ministries, and that's not happening.
In September, the Saunders Family Foundation will be holding a golf tournament at the Cowichan Golf Course.
We're hoping to raise bare minimum $50,000
with the goal of providing funding to hire an interim doctor for Lake Cowichan until a more permanent solution can be found. Brendan Strain, CTV News, North Cowichan.
Turning to the weather, the sun rose at 4:58 a.m. this morning in the northwest and sets at 10:16 p.m. tonight. Tonight on the north coast, expect conditions to be cloudy with a 60% chance of showers this evening, periods of rain beginning near midnight, winds light except southeast 30 kilometers an hour over exposed coastal sections this evening and after midnight, temperatures at 11 degrees. Over the next few days on the north coast, expect rain, showers and periods of rain. Daily temperatures from 12 climbing to 15 Monday, overnight lows around 11-12 degrees. Tonight in the Terrace-Kitimat area, expected to be cloudy with a 60% chance of showers. Winds from the south at 20 kilometers an hour, gusting to 40, becoming light overnight, low 11 degrees. Over the next few days in the Terrace-Kitimat area, expect a few showers and periods of rain for the weekend, then sun and clouds with maybe some showers getting into the week. Daily highs from 14 climbing to 26 by Tuesday, overnight lows from 11 to 14 degrees. Tonight in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, it's looking partly cloudy with a 30% chance of showers early this evening. Winds from the west at 20 kilometers an hour, becoming light this evening, a low of 9 degrees. Over the next few days in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, expect a mix of sun and clouds for the weekend and then a sunny start to the week. 16 degrees Friday, climbing steadily to 24 by Tuesday, overnight lows between 4 and 10 degrees. And let's take a look at your northwest highways now. On Highway 16, there's construction in Prince Rupert with a detour in effect, also bridge maintenance and mowing going on. On Highway 37, watch for bridge maintenance and construction, as well as frost heaves and a material spill. On Highway 37A, there's bridge maintenance, as well as a section with falling rocks. And on the Niska Highway, there's road sweeping going on. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, wildfire devastation near Saskatoon. The aftermath of wildfires can leave environmental, economic, and personal scars. CTV's Allison Bamford now on one family's painful start to rebuilding.
This is at the cabin, yeah.
Faded memories of a family legacy that's no longer standing.
It is total, utter devastation.
Wildfires destroyed Doug Swiderski's cabin at East Trout Lake, 3.5 hours northeast of Saskatoon, a place that had been in his family for decades.
There was an old cabin there. When Dad retired, we tore it down and built a new one for him and Mom to retire up there.
Damage and length of evacuations are two factors considered in new Statistics Canada data looking at how wildfires impact the economy. On a national scale, effects are quite small. Business in wildfire zones made up less than 1% of total GDP in 2023, with the exception of the Northwest Territories, where fires threatened nearly 75% of economic activity. At a local level, the potential impacts are much greater. Last summer, Jasper's local economy was effectively shut down during evacuations, with a third of the town site destroyed.
Lots of stuff Dad handmade.
For the Swiderskis, much of their loss can't be measured. The home away from home eventually became Doug's permanent address and the final resting place for his parents' cremated ashes.
And there was nothing that we could do to get in there to, to get them out.
The Swiderskis sifted through piles of rubble to find what was left of the previous urns.
That is Dad's new box. And his ashes are now in there. And that is Mom's new box.
It could take 18 months for another cabin to be built. Once that happens, Doug's parents will be placed there, back at the site where the family legacy all started. Allison Bamford, CTV News, Saskatoon.
Now to Gaza, where so many are trying to escape. Now there are questions as to why a group of Palestinian students' visas are taking so long to get approved. Here's CTV's Heather Wright.
Twisted metal and debris. This is what it looks like in Gaza City after an Israeli airstrike this morning. It's near where 19-year-old Tawfiq Abed lives in a small room with nearly a dozen other people.
I'm displaced. My house is in dangerous area.
Abed dreams of being an engineer and has been offered a full scholarship to the University of Alberta. Trouble is, he's applied for a student visa but has received no response from the Canadian government.
I'm sorry to lose such an opportunity, especially that is Canada. That's my dream. That's what I'm looking for is coming through.
Abed is not the only one. According to a group of Canadian professors, there are roughly 70 Palestinian students stuck waiting. They are urging the government to move more quickly to help these students come here to study.
Germany is able to do it. France has been able to do it. They've provided safe passage for students. They've expedited visas. It is punitive, and there's no reason why we can't do the same in Canada.
Part of the challenge for the students still in Gaza is providing biometrics, such as fingerprints and a photo. But others say they submitted their completed applications over a year ago and have heard nothing.
We're not asking for them to skip the line. We're not asking for shortcuts. We're just asking for these students to be treated fairly so that they can come to Canada and study here in the great research programs that we have here.
CTV News has reached out to the Ministry of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship multiple times. They have not yet responded to our questions about why it is taking so long to process these applications.
The conflict in Iran and Israel comes closer to home. As CTV's Judy Trin reports, Iranian officials may seek refuge in Canada.
In this latest conflict, Israel has assassinated top leaders of the Iranian regime. Their concerns, Iranian officials responsible for human rights violations will seek refuge in Canada.
Canada has long been a safe haven for the regime operatives.
Despite a 2022 law barring senior Iranian officials from entering Canada, some are getting in. The latest data from Canada Border Services shows that as of June, 17,800 Iranians were reviewed for inadmissibility. So far, 20 senior officials have been flagged for deportation, and 66 cases are still under investigation.
No Canadian should feel safe when we have people who have been involved in crimes against humanity, in terrorism, in trafficking, in money laundering, living amongst us as if that's normal.
Last year, the federal government designated the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the elite military unit of Iran, a terror organization.
This action sends a strong message that Canada will use all of the tools at its disposal to combat the terrorist entity of the IRGC.
A parliamentary committee heard there could be 700 IRGC officials living in Canada. Former Justice Minister Irwin Cotler, who's under 24-hour police protection after being put on an Iranian hit list, says Canada needs to do more than just deport.
We have to exclude them from entry and prosecute them where the evidence can demonstrate that, in fact, they are complicit.
Cotler says the information gathered by CBSA can form the basis for criminal investigations into war crimes, foreign interference, money laundering, and terrorism.
Turning to the markets now, Canada's main stock index saw gains Thursday, helped by strength in base metals stocks, while U.S. markets also climbed. The Canadian dollar gained half a cent. The price of gold rose $4.90. Oil gained 32 cents, natural gas dropped 9 cents, aluminum fell $17. In Toronto, the TSX rose almost 186 points. The Venture Index rose 10 points. In New York, the Nasdaq gained 194 points and the Dow gained 404. Still ahead, tourism or lack thereof. A new study is showing a decline in tourism to Canada from both Americans and overseas tourists. Here's CTV's Craig Krause.
One tire at a time. This Vancouver bike rental shop is preparing for its typical summer rush.
It's hard to say so far because the weather is still cold. We have rainy days.
Weather aside, there could be a drop in tourism this summer. According to Stats Canada, the country is experiencing a steady decline in both U.S. and overseas visitors. In April, Canada saw nearly 9% fewer Americans. Year over year, there were 18,000 fewer Americans visiting BC. Do you understand why some Americans wouldn't want to come to Canada?
Not really. I really don't understand that at all.
April's data was the third consecutive month of declining visits by Americans and the seventh by overseas tourists. But is it being felt yet?
We're exceeding over 200,000 visitors that are coming within this area.
Unclear if it's made up of foreign or domestic travelers, but regardless, the Okanagan and other popular vacation spots will see more Canadians this year. Numbers show Canucks returning from the U.S. is down more than 29%.
A lot of camping. We're from the island, so lots of beautiful spots.
And TransLink is jumping on board the Canadian travel trend, introducing a summer tour initiative to help people discover the region.
There's a fun contest involved, and it's really exciting to make sure that we are, really encouraging people to support local businesses.
And with summer only a few days in, one popular southern destination is bracing for the worst as Canadians look elsewhere.
57% down in 2025 for website traffic.
Leaving the mayor with a simple message.
Give us a chance. Come on down. We're not going to turn anybody away because of where they come from.
Craig Crow, CTV News, Vancouver.
A highly contested tax that was only imposed in Newfoundland has been removed, but research suggests it may have made a positive impact. Here's CTV's Garrett Berry.
As you travel around this province, it becomes pretty easy to tell why Newfoundland and Labrador's sugar-sweetened beverages tax fizzled out.
There's all sorts of people don't like being told what to do, especially when it comes to something that they've either eaten or drinking all their life.
Especially with a possible provincial election on the horizon.
There's definitely been complaints about it, just like complaining about the price for sure, which is something that where I work we can't we can't do anything about it.
You won't find many defenders of the policy designed to dissuade consumers from sugary drinks by making them a little more expensive. It was one of the first of its kind in the country and part of a plan to battle obesity, diabetes, and other diseases in the province. Opposition parties slammed the tax as a mere cash grab, and public opinion quickly soured. But this week, a new evaluation released by the Heart and Stroke Foundation said there's signs the tax actually had an impact, reducing consumption of taxed beverages, but increasing consumption of other untaxed sugary beverages that were excluded from the policy, like chocolate milk or smoothies.
These are the types of swings in behavior in the population we were hoping to see. But to do it over just 2 years, it's too short of a time period, and you need to change it. The tax didn't hit the mark exactly.
But the fate of this policy has already been sealed, repeal set for July 1st. Newfoundland and Labrador's Department of Finance didn't respond to our questions about whether this new research would be considered.
We were disappointed because we didn't see any evidence that there was a meaningful evaluation done at the government level.
Researchers worry that with just 2.5 years to study, they might not get enough data to understand whether these changes would hold up long term or could work in other provinces. Gary Perry, CTV News, St. John's.
We leave you tonight with the story of a lover of foraging who shares his love with the world.
This plant that is growing right here is wild chamomile.
At 20 years old, Shane Alden already knows his biggest passion in life.
I would not call myself an expert. I am just very passionate about plants.
Ugh. This plant that's sticking onto me right now is gallium.
For the past 2 years, the Chicago native has been picking up millions of views on social media as he takes folks on a foraging adventure. One commenter on this video writes, "Thanks for making plants cool," fire emoji.
Just trying to share my passion. I had no idea that it would have gotten to this point.
As you'll see, he goes by the Wild Dryad, named for both the Greek tree spirit,
But this is Dryad saddle,
and this type of edible mushroom. As his age might suggest, no, Shane does not have any degrees in this field, but he does always promise to never tell his followers to try anything he hasn't attempted himself.
What is that?
This is Juneberry wine.
For example, in his Chicago apartment, he showed me the wine he's fermenting from June berries.
Oh, you made that?
Mm-hmm.
And he's even been basket weaving with pine needles.
you can use those flowers to make a chamomile-like drink with it.
But Shane says what he loves doing the most is sharing his plant passion and teaching people what he has learned.
A way to identify poison ivy is that it's going to have leaves of 3.
So, as we officially enter summer, he does have a recommendation for parents who are looking for STEM activities, pun intended, to try with their kids. Shane's tip: don't sleep on how much fun you can have together with dandelions.
You can make them into cocoa powder-like substitutes. You make them into dyes, teas, juices, wines, salads, whole bunch of different stuff.
That's our news for now. For more local news, you can visit us at cftktv.com. Thanks for watching.